Hey there, all-car wrestling fans. The Big Daddy D here with a wrestling DVD-based review. Recently I picked up this TNA DVD, Hard Justice, at a pound shop during my summer holiday. Now, a pound shop is basically a shop where everything is a pound, funnily enough. I don't know if there's an equivalent in America, dollar stores, nickel stores perhaps. The cover gave no indication as to what year this particular Hard Justice pay-per-view took place. But a look on the back cover showed that the main event matches were Booker T versus Samoa Joe and AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle. Reason enough to buy the DVD alone, in my opinion. A quick look on Wikipedia tells me that this was Hard Justice 2008, so would it have hurt to have put this on the DVD cover? However, despite it saying Hard Justice on the cover, and even Hard Justice on the DVD itself, when you pop it into your DVD player, it isn't Hard Justice that you're getting after all. After an FBI warning message, which isn't something that you usually get on DVDs in good old Blighty, what you get is the menu for Final Resolution. What the hell? So this is probably the reason why the DVD was in the pound shop then. Clearly during the DVD production process, they must have accidentally printed the Hard Justice logo on a batch of discs that actually had Final Resolution on them. So rather than just melting them down and starting again, and losing a ton of money in the process, they just sold them off cheap. It's not the first time this has happened. Only a couple of months ago, me and my buddy KP came across this DVD in another pound shop, Wisp of Air, the story of that guy we're not supposed to talk about. Clearly WWE had stopped production of this DVD completely and had a load of copies left over, so they sold them off on cheap. Me and KP actually bought several copies of this DVD and sold them on again at a decent profit. Ka-ching! So, anyway, this is Final Resolution from 2008, but the strange thing is that a Final Resolution pay-per-view had already taken place that year in January, which is when the Final Resolution events usually took place. However, TNA, for some inexplicable reason, moved the event to December in early October 2008. As a result of TNA's decision, two Final Resolution events actually took place in 2008, one in January, the other in December. Why on earth did they do this? What sense does it make that you would have two events with the exact same name taking place twice in 1 year? WWE doesn't hold two SummerSlams or two Royal Rumbles a year, does it? It just makes it confusing if you're trying to buy the DVDs. Oh, it's Final Resolution 2008, but which one is it? Turns out that the one I've got here on this Hard Justice DVD is from December 2008, which featured a main event consisting of the TNA Frontline against the Main Event Mafia, each side representing the young guys and the veterans of TNA. So why couldn't they have just called this event Frontline versus Main Event Mafia? That would still make a pretty good title, wouldn't it? And it would avoid confusion. Okay, gripes about the name aside, and the fact that it's not even the pay-per-view I expected in the first place, let's get onto the actual event itself. Well, first up is Feast or Fired. This is basically like the WWE's Money in the Bank match, except there's 4 briefcases up for grabs instead of 1. 3 of the briefcases contain title shots for the World, X Division and Tag Team titles, whilst the 4th one contains a pink slip, as in, if you get that, then you're fired from TNA. Okay, what kind of a reward is that? Why on earth would you compete in a match where there's a 75% chance of you getting sacked from your job? TNA even have 4 titles now, what with the Legends belt being created at the time, so why not have a shot at that belt in the 4th briefcase instead? Oh, and to make matters worse, only 1 briefcase will be opened tonight. The rest will be opened on the next episode of Impact. What? This is something that immediately becomes apparent on this show. A lot of the stuff stemming from this isn't going to happen on the pay-per-view itself. Oh no. Hey, I understand that you want people to tune in and watch Impact, but would it really hurt to reveal it on the pay-per-view? You know, the show that everyone paid money to see? And oh yes, just like in every other type of match where the aim is to climb up something, i.e. Money in the Bank, ladder matches, cage matches, etc., everyone suddenly becomes really slow at climbing. Something that strangely enough doesn't happen in normal matches. Anyway, Big Mexican Guy Hernandez grabs briefcase number 4, which a quick look on Google tells me that he got the world title shot. He actually won the match by disqualification, but then had to take time off due to a neck injury, so he wasn't able to follow up on this. He manages to get hold of the briefcase just after he border tosses one unlucky sod, I believe it was Jimmy Rave, onto everybody else. Then Curryman grabs briefcase number 3 and ends up getting fired. You've got to feel sorry for Christopher Daniels. First he gets fired in a Feast or Fired match whilst wrestling under his real name. Then he comes back under the masked man gimmick he normally wrestles under in Japan, only to get fired again in the same kind of match. What the hell? Homicide then uses poor Sonjay Dutt as a platform to stand on so he can grab the X Division title shot. Meanwhile, the Motor City Machine Guns have been double teaming everyone throughout the match, so it looks like one of them will get the last briefcase. And they do, as Chris Sabin even watches Alex Shelley's back so we can get it. But because the Guns are a couple of fucking idiots here, Jay Lethal steals it from them and dives to the outside of the ring to claim the final briefcase. And a tag team title shot. Oh, wow, good job he's got a tag team partner here, otherwise that prize would have been a bit of a dud. Anyway, Lethal is the only guy allowed to open his briefcase tonight, and he does it while Shelley whines about it in the background, leading Jeremy Borash to call him a total non-stop arsehole. Wow, Shelley, you just got pwned by the guy who does the interviews. Good job there. This then leads on to the 6-women tag team match where it's Charmel and the Beautiful People against Taylor Wilde, Roxy and ODB. I'll let you work out what the initials stand for. Charmel, by the way, since turning heel, that's wrestling jargon for baddie if you didn't know, is now a completely different character from what she was 6 months previously. What are you, a fucking schizophrenic now? Anyway, without Awesome Kong on the bad girl's side to balance things out, ODB is clearly far too tough for any of the heels, and the only way to balance this is to have cute Kip cheat and interfere. And let's face it, when Billy fucking Gunn is your strongest link in the team, then that team is in serious trouble. Anyway, Taylor Wilde pins Angelina Love of the Beautiful People to get the win. The next match has Eric Young, playing a serious character for once, up against the artist formerly known as Davari. It's Sheik Abdul Bashir. These two had a match at the previous pay-per-view Turning Point, but the title change was held up because of a dispute between Bashir and the referee Shane Sewell, who suspiciously looks like he could be a wrestler as well. Now, this time Sewell is under strict instructions not to affect the outcome of the match. Now, Mike Tenay, bless him, claims that TNA didn't remove Sewell from this match because it was a tough decision. No, it was an easy decision, you just don't have him in the fucking match. Anyway, as expected, Bashir continuously gets in the referee's face and deliberately baits him into losing his temper. He does, and this leads Eric Young into winning the match after Sewell kicks Bashir's arms away from the ropes during a block on a sunset flip. Bashir then attacks Sewell after the match and causes him to bleed quite heavily after smacking him over the head with the X Division belt. What is that fucking thing made of? Razor blades? Mind, it was funny seeing Jim Cornette snatching the belt back off Bashir and telling him, "I don't understand a goddamn word you're saying and I don't care." Anyway, due to Sewell's interference, the belt switch didn't count again, so TNA would later run a tournament to determine a new champion. Homicide, who had won an X Division title shot in the Feast or Fired match earlier on in the pay-per-view, would eventually cash it in way down the line after the mess that took place tonight, the tournament that followed, and a couple more X Division belt switches. In fact, by the time he did cash in his X Division title shot, a lot of people had forgotten that he even had it in the first place. So now we come on to the Knockouts title match between Kirsty Hemme and Awesome Kong. Today makes out that the fans are behind Hemme, but a fan in the crowd holding up a sign that says, "If Hemme wins, we riot," soon shoots that theory down. Bless him. Anyway, Hemme just kind of throws everything at Kong, who mostly ignores it until Hemme does a huge dive from the top rope to the floor onto Kong. Kong then goes, "Okay, you've had your turn," and pulls out all her power moves, including this really nasty looking backbreaker rack. But gutsy Kirsty fights back by kicking Kong in the head and doing that split leg drop move she does. But Kong's ringside assistant gets involved, which leads to a bullshit DQ finish. At this point, TNA must have realised that Kong was looking increasingly bored with the division at this point, so it hardly comes as a surprise that Kong is in WWE these days under the name of Karma. Although it's just been revealed that she's actually taken a year off now as she's pregnant. Must have been a brave guy to try and get her in the sack. Meanwhile, we get a backstage interview with Kurt Angle, who tells us that he's obsessed with Jeff Jarrett, and that he thinks about Jeff Jarrett morning, day and night. Professional wrestling, folks. It's not gay at all. Honest. Next up, it's Beer Money Incorporated, defending their tag team titles against big blokes Matt Morgan and Abyss. Beer Money pretty much get their asses killed out there by their much bigger opponents, but thanks to Jacqueline, a beer bottle and some knuckle dusters, they managed to retain their tag team belts. Backstage, Mick Foley's having an interview when the Guns show up to whinge about the finish of the Feast or Fired match. In response to this, Foley tells them to wait until Thursday. Oh goody, something else that doesn't pay off on the pay-per-view, and instead we have to wait until Impact. You know, you're supposed to use the TV shows to build up the pay-per-view, not the other way round. This then leads to the Guns staging a sulky protest in the middle of the ring. Suicide then shows up and destroys both guys. Suicide, if you didn't know, is the character you play in the story mode of the TNA Impact video game. A game so bad that my buddy KP actually used more swear words whilst playing this game than on an entire evening of playing Black Ops on Xbox Live. My question is, why would TNA debut a video game character after the video game in question sucked arse? And how are they going to explain how a fictitious video game character came to life in the first place? Did he crawl out of the TV screen like the creepy little girl from The Ring? Oh well, at least it gives Frankie Kazarian something to do for the next few months. So next up, it's Kurt Angle versus Rhino, with the stipulations that if Angle loses, he's gone from TNA for good. So that pretty much tells you the outcome of this match. Oh yeah, and if Angle wins, he gets to face Jeff Jarrett at the next pay-per-view, Genesis. The fact that these two are still feuding in 2011 gives you the indication that this rivalry has really run its course by now. I don't know what it was about this match, but it didn't seem to click together at all. Rhino seems to have left his usual intensity behind in the locker room. Anyway, Al Snow of all people comes down to the ring, slaps Mick Foley across the face, and goes into the crowd. This is all Angle needs to chair shot and Angle slam Rhino to, thankfully, put this match to bed. After the match, Angle points out that now he gets to face Jeff Jarrett at Genesis, and he warns Mick Foley that he's next after he cripples Jarrett. Oh yeah, and he calls Foley an old son of a bitch while he does it, which is a bit odd considering that Foley is only 3 years older than Angle. It turns out that Al Snow's appearance was a one-off and he didn't return to TNA until their ECW tribute stuff during 2010. What, so no feud between Mick Foley and Al Snow then? So what was the point of having him turn up on the show then? Anyway, it's time for the main event as the front line take on the Mafia, with Sting's World Heavyweight title on the line. Anyway, Samoa Joe gets beaten up for ages by the Mafia, especially by Scott Steiner, who looks freakishly powerful when he belly-to-belly suplexes Joe off the top rope. Not an easy feat. But after Steiner runs into the ST Joe, AJ Styles tags in and cleans house on the veterans. Also, can someone tell Kevin Nash to either dye his fucking hair or stop wearing that red costume? He's beginning to look like an angry Santa Claus. Team 3D hit the 3D out of nowhere on Booker, which then leads to a series of finishes being hit left, right and centre. Joe looks to have Sting in the Muscle Buster to finish off the match, but Kevin Nash comes along, hits him in the balls, and that allows Sting to hit him with the Scorpion Death Drop to get the pin. Bullshit. So Joe took all that punishment throughout the match, got his ass kicked by everyone, yet still kept going, but it's the punch to the balls that finishes him off. Okay, whatever. Not a bad match, but the finish left the young guys looking like losers. After the match, Sting teases a dissension within the main event Mafia by not celebrating with the rest of them. This is an interesting aspect of the storyline because Sting isn't really suited to be a bad guy, yet he needs the Mafia in order to keep hold of his title. It looks like Sting is questioning himself whether it's worth selling his soul to the devil just to retain his belt. Not a bad show from TNA, but not necessarily a good one either. They could have done a lot more with the main event. The undercard was weak in places, and not even Kurt Angle could save the show. As far as DVD extras are concerned, you get a music video, a photo gallery, and an awkward-looking interview with Al Snow that got quite creepy at times for all the wrong reasons. You would have thought that with the amount of time they mentioned, "Oh, you'll have to catch Impact to find out what happens next," that the episode in question would have been featured as a DVD extra, but no. To be honest, I would have rather have gotten the promised Hard Justice pay-per-view on this DVD rather than Final Resolution, but hey, that's what you get for £1, I guess. In conclusion, the Big Daddy D will give Final Resolution of December 2008 a sideways bum.